morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy, Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. We're feeling great coming off the Falcons' victory. We called it here on Wake and Take, not just in the Week 2 preview episode, but we closed yesterday's episode saying, make sure you tune into the Falcons upset. Never a doubt in my mind. That is the epitome of Falcons victory right there. They win these games. We'll lose to the Chiefs next week. I knew we were going to lose to the Steelers, when I saw the Justin Fields thing. It's just how the Falcons work. So excited that the Falcons won last night's game. Not much to talk about really. Today is a waiver wire episode. I've got more than 50 players for you guys to keep your eye on in all your leagues this week. 50 of them. 55, I think, is what the actual number is. Maybe 56, as I just kept tinkering. So lots of players to go ahead and keep your eye out for on waiver wires this week. We're also going to do a really quick injury report. We're going to go down some of the bigger injuries that happened over the weekend and see what you can do to help those, because there were a lot of them. So, guys, we've got a long and fantastic episode lined up. Go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Man. Feeling good. Yeah, Falcons beat the Eagles. How could you not be feeling good? But we've got some football to talk about today. Welcome into the chat, everyone. Starting late this morning as Theo Greminger is rocking with the waiver wire. So if you want some more waiver wire advice, definitely go over to the live tab on Player Profiler and check out Theo's waiver wire episode. He does a fantastic job and is going to go into a little bit more detail on some of the players than I am, as I'm mostly just going to kind of tell you the player, why, and then move on, as we have a lot of players to talk about, leagues of all different types I'm trying to cover here. So go ahead and buckle up. We'll start with the injuries. Just a quick little injury rundown to some of the bigger ones over the weekend. Again, there's not a ton of information on Tuesdays. We know that there are injuries. We don't have full timelines yet, so that's something to just keep your eye out on. But either way, here's what we got. Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is expected to miss the next few weeks because of an injury that he picked up in the game. It was early, an ankle injury. And we'll see, right? We don't know if it's a high ankle sprain. We don't know if it's a low ankle sprain. We don't know if it's a mid ankle sprain. We don't know if it's a broken ankle. We don't know what the ankle injury is. We just know that he could end up on IR and miss an extended period of time. So we'll talk about the Rams players to pick up a little bit later in the show. Spoiler alert, it's Jordan Whittington only. Now, Isaiah Pacheco, he is also expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks with a fractured fibula. He already underwent surgery. He is going to be out for a long time. And you've got to be picking up Chiefs running backs, Carson Steele, Samaje Perine, and maybe even taking a stab on Kareem Hunt as they brought him in. We'll talk about that some more later in the show as well. Deebo Samuel picked up a calf injury in the game. It has been reported that he's expected to miss a couple of games. So we'll see what that means. Calf injuries are generally something that could be played through. So I'm hoping it's only a 1 week absence, but we'll see. As this develops, Deebo is the type of player to play through these things. And with Christian McCaffrey already out, I could see the 49ers getting a little desperate in his time frame. But we'll see. Definitely something to keep your eye on, as Deebo Samuel is awesome and so much fun to watch. Justin Jefferson picked up a quad injury. He is reported as day-to-day, and he's come out and said he feels good and doesn't really expect to miss any time. So we'll just have to take him at his word. But either way, definitely keep your eye on it and maybe take a stab at Jalen Nailor in some of your deeper leagues. Joe Mixon on the Houston Texans, he picked up an ankle injury after a hip drop tackle. It ended up not being serious. It has come out and been reported that it's not considered to be a long-term injury. We don't know the timeline. He might miss 1 game, maybe 2. But as of right now, it's not considered to be that serious of an injury, and he should be fine. But definitely take some Cam Akers stabs if he's out there in your leagues. Amon-Ra St. Brown will be good and has a soft tissue injury per Richard Silva of the Detroit News Report. So he picked up an injury in this game as well. He played through it, looked fine. Geez, the coffee came back with a vengeance that time. He looked fine. Amon-Ra St. Brown injured, but this is one of the toughest dudes in the league. He will probably end up not missing any time, but definitely still something to keep your eye on. And it might just be even more of a Jameson Williams season. Marshawn Lloyd, he picked up another injury. Marshawn Lloyd picked up an ankle sprain in this game. It hasn't been reported as a high ankle sprain, a mid, or a low. In fact, he himself has come out and said he feels day-to-day, doesn't seem to be that big of a deal. So it doesn't look like he will be undergoing any further testing or anything. He should be fine. Definitely something to keep your eye on. Luckily, in his case, he's not a starter, right? Like, he is still just a stash. It is, though, however, I will just go ahead and say, it is getting kind of frustrating that this man keeps getting injured. So definitely something to monitor as it pertains to Marshawn Lloyd. Evan Ingram, he ended up missing this week's game because he picked up a hamstring injury in warmups. There's not been any further reports on the severity of this hamstring injury. But as we know, hamstring injuries are something that usually linger. So I would expect him to miss at least one more game or just not be 100% for the next couple weeks. Either way, definitely something to keep your eye on. Probably pick up Brenton Strange if you are really desperate for a tight end. He actually looked pretty decent last week, has some of the athleticism, and held back Theo Johnson at Penn State a little bit. So that's an interesting player right there. Tua, we talked about it on Friday's episode. He picked up a really bad concussion in Thursday Night Football. The only update here is that he is not expected to retire, which is, to put my own opinion on it, I think he should just retire. I know we love the fantasy football points and everything and everything, but I mean, I really think he should retire. I'm very surprised that he's very quickly decided that he has no plans to retire. I honestly thought he would at least mull it over a little bit, but he will return at some point. Not sure when. Given this was a severe concussion, it'll probably at least be a couple weeks. And even then, it might be longer. I don't know. But given he doesn't want to retire, it seems he wants to keep playing football. Maybe he'll just be out in the Guardian cap. Just keep your eye on that as well. Taysom Hill picked up a chest injury in the game and actually had to go undergo testing at the hospital on Monday. It did say he avoided a major injury, so he should be fine, but keep your eye on Taysom Hill's game day status throughout the week. A.J. Brown, we know he missed last night's game with the hamstring injury, which led to the amazing Falcons comeback win. They might not have won that game with A.J. Brown there, but it didn't matter because he was out with a hamstring injury. It got reported mid-game, in the middle of the game, that he is expected to miss a couple more weeks with this hamstring injury. So as we saw, it looks like it might be Britton Covey's season. We know Jahan Dotson's not really utilized, but for the most part, it's still just Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley in Philly. Rachaad White picked up a groin injury in the game against the Lions. He did play through it, so he's probably fine, but definitely still something to keep your eye on. It makes Bucky Irving that much more valuable going forward in case Rachaad White re-aggravates. And then Tyjae Spears. He picked up an ankle injury, but it is reported as not major per Ian Rappaport, so he should probably be fine, but definitely something to keep your eye on. As it pertains to the Titans' backfield, we might see some more carries going Tony Pollard's way if Tyjae Spears is less than 100%, which it seems that he is. So that is a quick little injury rundown that I could find based on everything that happened over the week. Of course, there's still players who are already injured that we didn't really mention there, so definitely still keep your eye on, like David Njoku, Jake Ferguson, Jordan Love, and all those guys. But that is the injury updates from week 2 heading into week 3 as we discuss the waiver wire. But before we discuss the waiver wire, I wanted to go ahead and let you guys know about the awesome, incredible Player Profiler player rankings.
Hey, this will just take a second. I want to talk about our player rankings, the weekly rankings, the weekly projections. Billy, Theo, and our analytics geniuses getting your start, sit decisions dialed in that flex tab. And then you get the season rankings. Want to make add drop decisions? The season rankings are updated every week all year. And you have the best dynasty rankings ever as part of the player rankings package. And don't forget the offensive line rankings. Dan Fornick, one of the best in the business. New running back starting this week. Hey, is that offensive line top 10? Yeah, okay, start them. And we rank the cornerbacks out to like CB100 with the corresponding receiver they're going to be matched up with most this coming week. The player rankings are the thing you need during the season on PlayerProfiler.com. Check it out.
Definitely go get those player rankings. They're incredible. The projections on a weekly basis on top of just the seasonal and dynasty rankings that you get, on top of even like FFPC and Scott Fishbowl rankings, really the Player Profiler player rankings have it all. Definitely recommend getting those and perhaps even the all-in package if you want to go a little crazy. So let's go to the waiver wire. Again, guys, I have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, not 10, but 57 Waiver wire ads coming right up. We're going to kind of rapid fire these guys, so definitely turn on your ears and check out my Twitter at JFootballWine later this evening, as I will be publishing this list with no information. I'll just post the list. That way you guys have the list. You can watch the episode if you want the information. So last week we did 50% or more availability in Yahoo. This week we are doing 65% availability or more. There were some players out there available in 50% that I will just go ahead and mention really, really quick. Trey Benson, he's becoming more and more available. Blake Corum, he's becoming more and more available. So if those guys are available in your league, definitely do that. And Ty Chandler as well is fairly available in those leagues. Actually, no, he's available in 65% or more. So there was either way. So Trey Benson and Blake Corum, if they were dropped in your league prematurely, go ahead and pick them up. But the players actually available in 65% or more of Yahoo leagues, starting from the top, going from 34% rostered to 0% rostered. Kicking things off with Gabe Davis, and I might have already lost you, but if I didn't lose you, go ahead and hit that like button if you're enjoying this video so far, and go ahead and subscribe to Player Profiler. Gabriel Davis is definitely worth rostering, and definitely worth being rostered in more than 34% of the league of leagues. Now, we'll see if he ever actually becomes startable. For the most part, you're probably never going to feel comfortable starting him unless it's a really plus matchup, or like an injury falls his way. But through 2 weeks now, he has 6 receptions off of 10 targets for 105 yards. And last week he had 7 targets, brought in 3 of them for 43 yards. So 3 receptions in back-to-back weeks. This Jaguars offense seems to be passing the ball a decent bit. And Gabe Davis seems to be a good part of this offense, especially while Christian Kirk continues to underwhelm. I know it's Gabe Davis. I know we hate him, and that's why he's so available. But he's going to score some fantasy points. He's worth rostering in a lot of leagues, and worth starting even in some. I'll be starting him in one of my FFPC teams this week against the team they're playing. Anyway, Gabe Davis definitely worth rostering. Available in 66% of leagues. Another player available in 66% of Yahoo leagues is Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving now in back-to-back weeks has an over 30% snap share and has actually outtouched and outperformed Rachaad White. I guess outperformed Rachaad White in back-to-back weeks. Rachaad White also picked up that groin injury as mentioned at the top of the show. So Bucky Irving might actually see a little bit more usage going his way. He had 7 carries this week, and last week he had 9 carries and 2 receptions. He's an all-purpose back. He fell in the draft because of an underperformed combine, but he still looked really, really good in college, has the full skill set as a pass catcher and a between the tackles runner. Bucky Irving is someone that definitely needs to be rostered going forward, especially with the Rachaad White injury. Then moving on to Alec Pierce, who's rostered in 29% of Yahoo leagues. We talked about him a little bit last week. I wasn't too confident in him. I said you could pick him up if you want to. This week, I'm still going to kind of say the same. I know this is now back-to-back weeks where he's been incredible. He has a touchdown in back-to-back weeks. He has at least 3 receptions in back-to-back weeks. And in this week, he actually had 7 targets, brought in 5 of them for 56 yards and a touchdown. He seems to have a pretty damn good connection with Anthony Richardson. And I can't imagine that really stops going forward. Now, it's still going to be very, very tough for you to ever want to start him. But he seems he must be rostered. This is a guy who his first 2 years has done nothing but underwhelm and underperform with his athletic profile, but seems to have a good connection with Anthony Richardson. So I would say it's worth rostering him, worth picking him up, and seeing what happens through the course of the season. Moving on now to Ty Chandler, who's also rostered in 29% of leagues. Ty Chandler has back-to-back weeks playing in at least 35% of the snaps, and this week looked a lot better than Aaron Jones. He had 10 carries for 82 yards and actually didn't even have any receptions, which is what he does best. Aaron Jones had 9 carries for only 32 yards, had 5 receptions, but also lost a fumble. It seems he's kind of losing his hold on the backfield just a little bit, and Ty Chandler is a handcuff plus. We saw in week 1, he had 3 receptions and 8 carries. So this is now back-to-back weeks with at least 10 touches on this Minnesota Vikings offense that seems to be ascending. If Ty Chandler is available, go ahead and roster him. Now we have Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby is available in 71% of Yahoo leagues right now and should definitely not be. He should be rostered. I know in week 2, he had absolutely 0 touches, but that is because a shoulder injury that he picked up before the game, actually, and just didn't have any carries. And in week 1, though, he had 12 carries for 73 yards and looked better than Travis Etienne even. So Tank Bigsby is still probably going to be worked into this backfield. If he gets dropped this week or if he's still available, you should definitely pick him up, and it might be even easier given he scored 0 fantasy points this week, but he's definitely still worth rostering. Still Travis Etienne's handcuff, and he still has some potential to be even more than just a handcuff with the 12 carries in week 1. Number 6, we have Adonai Mitchell. So if we're going to talk about picking up Alec Pierce, we might as well talk about his eventual replacement. And Adonai Mitchell now in back-to-back weeks only has 1 reception, but he also has 9 targets, right? So he has 2 receptions off of 9 targets through the past 2 weeks, and that's just going to get better. He's going to continue to be targeted, and his connection with Anthony Richardson will grow as the season goes along. His profile is a match made in heaven for Anthony Richardson's arm. We saw in week 1, 2 touchdown passes were dropped that went straight to him, or not dropped, there's a little overthrown. That won't happen over the course of the season. He will eventually get some of those spike weeks. Go ahead and roster him before that happens. Next, we have Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier is available in 74% of leagues right now and is the handcuff to Bijan Robinson. He just had 9 carries and a reception in this game, which against the Eagles, which is better than we saw in week 1, where he only had 3 carries and an 18% snap share. He's worth rostering just because if anything happens to Bijan Robinson, he's going to be a big part of this Falcons offense, but it seems he's going to be utilized anyway, like he has been kind of throughout his career. So Tyler Algier still needs to be rostered. Hunter Henry, 25% owned. Should not be the case. Now, this may go down as his best game of the season. 8 receptions off of 12 targets for 109 yards is a massive game for any tight end. But I also think that he will have a good floor going forward as well. I think he's kind of unlocked the safety net ability from Jacoby Brissett, if you will. I think that Jacoby Brissett is going to look his way early and often now going forward. He's earned a lot of trust in this game and will be a big part of this Patriots game plan going forward. They frequently use the tight end position already, and Hunter Henry getting 12 targets is something that makes him a must roster going forward. Any tight end that has that type of ceiling needs to be picked up. So if Hunter Henry's still available in your league, go ahead and get him going. Next, we have Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen is also rostered in 25% of leagues, and we'll see if that changes. I'm sure he's going to be a hot commodity this week with the quarterback change. Bryce Young has been benched for Andy Dalton. Last time we saw Andy Dalton play was week 3 last year against the Seattle Seahawks, where Adam Thielen had 14 targets, brought in 11 of them for 145 yards and a touchdown. Andy Dalton in that game threw the ball more than 50 times, and I'm sure that's not really going to change this week. So go ahead and get in front of this. Get some Panthers pass catchers in case Andy Dalton continues to sling it like he did last season. And Adam Thielen, while last season was his big performance with Andy Dalton, this season he still has 7 targets, which is not bad, has brought in 5 of those 7 targets for 69 yards. No touchdowns yet, but I'm sure that'll come. And he still seems to be a pretty vital part of this Panthers offense and will probably be Andy Dalton's first read more than likely. So go ahead and roster him if he's available. And then number 10, Josh Downs. Josh Downs is available in 79% of leagues. That is just too many. Josh Downs, when he returns, will be Anthony Richardson's at least second target. I know we're talking about Alec Pierce lighting the world on fire, but Josh Downs will probably be pretty decent and honestly help Anthony Richardson's completion percentage going forward. Josh Downs and Anthony Richardson have a really good connection together. I know we didn't really get to see it much, but all offseason last year, like in their rookie seasons, there was all the talk about how much they're connecting. You know, they were throwing passes with each other in the hotel parking lot, in training camp, and the rookie OTAs and stuff like that. So I do think that they have a really good friendship and connection off the field, and that'll translate to on the field. Get Josh Downs while you still can. I think he'll be a big part of this Colts offense when he returns. And I honestly might just go ahead and say sell Michael Pittman, who's underperformed in 2 weeks now. It seems Anthony Richardson can't support a wide receiver like Michael Pittman. Number 11 is Jaylen Wright, who's also only rostered in 21% of leagues, and that needs to change. Jaylen Wright is the handcuff to roster in Miami. He had 5 carries in this game to Jeff Wilson's 0 with Raheem Mostert out. That says everything you need to know. I know Jaylen Wright only had 4 yards off of those 5 carries, but this was his first game. He will get acclimated and eventually get some more touches as well. Plus, Devon Achane, you know, while he's looking incredible right now, he still does have the injury concern. So Jaylen Wright is someone that is a must roster this season. Get him on your team. This is only the beginning. 24% of snaps is awesome to see in his first NFL action. Next, we have Wandale Robinson. Wandale Robinson, We talked about him mostly last week, and this week he actually did a little bit worse. He had 12 targets in week 1, only 4 targets this week, but he still scored the touchdown. Back-to-back weeks of exactly 8.8 points, and it's probably going to continue being like that. He will be a consistent enough player, whether it comes from touchdowns or just lots of receptions. The Giants need a player like Wandale Robinson just kind of staying underneath while they force-feed Malik Neighbors. Wandale Robinson should be rostered this season. Next, we have Khalil Herbert, who's now available in 80% of Yahoo leagues, has been dropped everywhere after week 1. And this week, again, not very good, only 2 carries and 2 receptions, but he did score the touchdown. And it seems he's earned the backup running back role behind DeAndre Swift. There's also some rumors out there that he is on the trade block and could go to one of these teams that lost a running back like the Chiefs or something. So if Khalil Herbert is out there, you could go ahead and pick him up and stash him in case he ends up on a new team, or if anything happens to DeAndre Swift, or if the Bears offense just decides to get a little bit better. But either way, Khalil Herbert, pretty available right now. Moving on to quarterbacks. We'll get some quarterbacks talk in here. In single quarterback leagues, if Derek Carr is available, go ahead and get him. Back-to-back weeks of at least 25 points, back-to-back weeks of at least 3 touchdowns, back-to-back weeks of at least 200 yards. The Saints offense is clicking. We haven't even really seen Chris Olave get involved yet. So if Derek Carr is available in your single quarterback leagues, he is definitely worth rostering. And so is Justin Fields. Justin Fields hasn't really put together the ceiling performance yet, but everything you want to see is starting to form. He's looking like a game manager, and he's still getting the carries. Eventually, we will see the ceiling. We'll see one of those breakaway running touchdowns, and he'll look like the Justin Fields of old. If you can still get him in places, do it. Justin Fields is a stud, and he is the Steelers quarterback going forward. Next, we have Justice Hill, who's available in 83% of leagues. This week was not really a Justice Hill week, but week 1 was, where he had 6 receptions off of 8 targets. That's just how it's going to be. He's a game script running back. And so you need to get him on your team in case there is anything going on with Derrick Henry, or they're in a catch-up type scenario. He will be utilized handsomely, really. Justice Hill, we saw it in week 1, 7 touches, 6 of those being receptions, 4 carries this week, 2 receptions as well. Not a lot, but he is still utilized, a big part of this Ravens backfield, especially as a pass catcher to spell Derrick Henry. And sorry, guys, the change of seasons gets me so bad. And yes, I am actually allergic to, not necessarily the rabbits, but I am allergic to hay, which is their food source. And I had to refill their hay this morning, so it's especially bothering me. So sorry about that. Try to push through, but man, my nose is going crazy. That is why I played the ad break a little bit earlier than usual. I thought I could fix it, and I just can't. It is just itching like crazy. So thank you, rabbits, and thank you, change of seasons, right? Like this, it is officially changing to fall, and it's bothering my allergies. But anyway, moving on to player number 17. Number 17 is Darnell Mooney. He's available in 84% of leagues. That's definitely going to change. He's probably going to be the hottest waiver wire ad this week, to be honest, just coming off 88 yards and a touchdown. A lot of that coming on that final drive, but still had 7 targets. And it seems to be that him and Kirk Cousins have a little bit of a connection together. It could have been a little bit better. He stopped running one of the routes that he was targeted on. If he had kept running the route, it would have been like a 40-yard gain at least. So Darnell Mooney definitely needs to be rostered, looking like a big part of this Falcons offense that is coming back together slowly but surely. I took 2 Benadryls. So it isn't for a lack of trying. It is just you have no idea how bad my allergies are. They are awful. No matter what I do. I really think I just need to go to a literal allergist. But anyway, next we have Greg Dortch, who's available in 84% of leagues, coming off a down week. He'll definitely be fine. Going forward, he'll have games like this. That's the Greg Dortch experience, but he is still the slot receiver on the Cardinals. He was a huge part of their game plan in week 1. I don't think that's just going to completely fade, but if you can get him on your team, go ahead and do it. If anything happens to Michael Wilson or even Trey McBride or Marvin Harrison Jr., then he'll definitely have some even bigger weeks. This week, only 2 receptions for 11 yards, but week 1, 6 receptions for 47 off of 8 targets. Going to be a big part of the Cardinals game plan this season. He's going to still have weeks. So if he was dropped or if you can get him, go ahead and roster him. Then we have Antonio Gibson, who this week just had 11 carries for 96 yards, also added a reception. He is the handcuff to Ramondre Stevenson, but with his athleticism has some ability to score some points even as just a backup. So if Antonio Gibson is still available in your league, go ahead and get that guy. Then we have Ray Davis as player number 20, available in 86% of leagues. He is one of the most important roster handcuffs to own right now. You need to roster Ray Davis if he's available. I know we just saw a great game from James Cook, but Ray Davis' snap share grew from 10% to 31% in week 2. He had 9 carries and a reception. This is just the beginning. He's going to continue to get worked in. We've seen the Bills do it before. They will have a backfield committee. Ray Davis will get more involved. And then if anything happens to James Cook, he's going to be a true bell cow with massive upside. You need to roster Ray Davis. Then still in your single quarterback leagues, if Sam Darnold is available, I guess get him. He's available in 86% of leagues. And in back-to-back weeks now has scored at least 18 points, has had at least 200 passing yards, has had at least 2 passing touchdowns. And he looks like he's good in this Minnesota offense. It seems the system fits his skill set. And it seems that him and Justin Jefferson have a good connection. And just having that is good enough. And then eventually Jordan Addison will be back from his injury. TJ Hawkinson will be back from his injury. So if you can get Sam Darnold in your single quarterback leagues, go ahead and do it. Player number 22 is Jalen Polk, who is available in 87% of leagues right now, and just scored his first NFL touchdown, had 3 targets, brought in 2 of them for 12 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Polk is going to get better as the season goes along. I know that it's going to be very, very hard to start him right now, but if he's available, you need to go ahead and stash him because A, if Drake May comes in, they'll pass the ball a little bit more. But also B, Jalen Polk will just earn more snaps as the season goes on along as well. So get Jalen Polk. Next, we have Michael Wilson, player number 23, available in 88% of leagues. Hasn't done too much yet. He scored a touchdown in week 1 off of his only reception and only had 2 receptions for 31 yards in this game, but he is still the outside receiver opposite of Marvin Harrison Jr. in this offense. If he's still available in one of your leagues, go ahead and roster him in case an injury happens, or if you maybe start to see a spike league, you can maybe flip him because he is still young. Not getting a ton of volume, which is a concern, but definitely still worth rostering. Next, we have Xavier Legette. We talked about it with Adam Thielen. Really, you want to go ahead and get ahead of your Panthers wide receivers, just in case Andy Dalton chucks it like he did last season. Last season, again, in his only action, he threw the ball over 50 times, threw a couple touchdown passes. Like, he looked pretty damn good. So you want to get any Panthers pass catcher you can in case he looks good again. Xavier Legette in week 1 had 7 targets, had none in week 2, but that's just a Bryce Young thing. Xavier Legette was their first pick this year and will continue to be a part of their game plan going forward if he's available. Go ahead and roster him just in case Andy Dalton looks good. Marshawn Lloyd is available in 90% of leagues, and this is another handcuff you need to roster. He's kind of playing through an injury and then just picked up another one, so that's concerning. But still 6 carries and a reception in this game. Marshawn Lloyd looks not that great on the field yet, but he is very explosive, looked incredible at the Senior Bowl, had some great breakaway plays in college as well. So Marshawn Lloyd is a must-roster handcuff as well. Josh Jacobs is not going to survive if he's going to get 35 carries every single game. So Marshawn Lloyd has some upside there, even with Josh Jacobs, but definitely, especially if Josh Jacobs goes down, you want to roster Marshawn Lloyd. Get him on your team. Braylon Allen is next, who's also available in 90% of leagues. This is another handcuff, but it's seeming that he's going to be pretty good to use even with Breece Hall active. In this game, he scored 2 touchdowns. He had 7 carries and a rushing touchdown and 2 receptions and a receiving touchdown. His snap share grew from 18 to 35% in week 2. This was a player that we were really high on at Player Profiler heading into the draft. He was actually our rookie running back 1 before the draft capital came in and the combine numbers and the landing spot and all that. But he had a lot of he looked good, like on the tape. If you watch the tape, he was incredible in college. So we're seeing it translate to the NFL as well. He looked really good. If Braylon Allen is out there, definitely get him. And I would honestly say if you have Breece Hall, trade for him as well. Next, we have Quentin Johnston, who's available in 92% of leagues. We talked about him last week. We'll talk about him again this week. If you can get Quentin Johnston, just do it. He belongs on our fantasy football rosters. We'll find out over the course of the season if he belongs in our starting lineup. My thought is he's going to be more of a roster clogger where you're never really confident starting him or anything like that, but he's definitely still worth rostering. He's tied with Ladd McConkey now for Chargers lead in targets. His snap share is 70% this week. He had 6 targets, brought in 5 of them for 51 yards, and got 2 touchdowns. Starting to come to life. As mentioned before, all offseason, really, it seems that with a competent coaching staff, Quentin Johnston might be able to be used properly, and that's what we're seeing. So Quentin Johnston definitely still worth rostering. If he's available, go ahead and pick and pick him up. Zach Ertz, available in 92% of leagues. He is Jaden Daniels' safety net. He has back-to-back weeks of 4 targets, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a pretty good amount in this offense, and especially for the tight end position. 4 receptions for 62 yards last week. That's just going to be the story. Eventually, touchdowns will come in as well, so if you can get Zach Ertz, do it. Go ahead and get him on your team. Then I've got an interesting one here. Kendre Miller, player number 29, available in 93% of leagues, was put on the NFI for a hamstring injury heading into the season, but he is designated to return, will probably be back week 5, and this Saints offense looks incredible. And I don't believe in Jamal Williams. I really, really don't. I do think if Kendre Miller comes back, when Kendre Miller comes back, I know that Dennis Allen hates him, but I do think that Kendre Miller will be the RB2. And if anything happens to Alvin Kamara, Kendre Miller will have a huge season. So definitely get Kendre Miller while you still can. Trade for him in Dynasty especially. Alvin Kamara is up there in age. Jamal Williams is also up there in age and just not that good. I do think that Kendre Miller needs to be rostered. I know we have the Dennis Allen hates him thing, but still worth rostering. Was a player we liked a lot last year. Next, we have Jalen McMillan. Jalen McMillan isn't going to have a ton of volume unless an injury happens. But given Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are so old and they're getting a ton of volume right now, it's definitely likely. And Jalen McMillan scored a touchdown in his first game and has 5 targets through 2 weeks. This week, he didn't really do much, only 1 reception for 21 yards. But still, he is the wide receiver 3 on this offense and worth rostering for injury upside or just kind of developing throughout the course of the season. Jalen McMillan needs to be rostered. And so does Andre Yoshabas. This is a player you're never really going to feel comfortable starting, but still, he has a little bit of trade value in deeper leagues. And, next year it's possible he just, continues to hold Jermaine Burton back when T. Higgins is gone. So Andre Yoshabas, 4 targets, brings in 2 of them. Both of those are receiving touchdowns, 2 receptions, 7 yards, and 2 touchdowns. A hilarious stat line. But Andre Yoshabas, worth rostering. And so is Samaje Perine, available in 94% of leagues. He hasn't done much yet. He only had 1 reception in week 2, 1 reception in week 1. But still, he's been on the Chiefs before. They liked him a lot when he was there. He's an all-purpose running back. And with Isaiah Pacheco now expected to miss at least 6 weeks, Samaje Perine is definitely worth rostering. And after this week, he might even be worth starting. Definitely don't do it this week. Definitely watch how it unfolds. But either way, you need to take a swing on Samaje Perine. Next is Jonnu Smith, who's available in 94% of leagues. Jonnu Smith is coming off a 7-target game where he brought in 6 of them for 53 yards. That is awesome to see. The Miami Dolphins have not really utilized their tight ends in the past. So to see him get that type of volume is awesome. And I know Tua Tagovailoa is going to be out for a while, but we actually see these backup quarterbacks really like their tight ends. So I could see Jonnu Smith getting a similar amount of volume, especially with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle taking away so much coverage. If Jonnu Smith is available, he's worth stashing as well. In deeper leagues, you might as well get Ray McCloud. This is now back-to-back weeks with at least 5 targets. He is the slot receiver for the Atlanta Falcons. This week, he had 3 receptions for 42 yards, almost had a touchdown. Last week, he had 4 receptions for 52 yards, also added some yards on kick returns. Ray McCloud needs to be rostered. He's looking like the starting slot receiver on Atlanta. And as Kirk Cousins gets healthier, I could see Ray McCloud's production going up as well. Number 35, we have Isaac Guerendo, who's available in 94% of Yahoo leagues. He is a good handcuff to own behind Jordan Mason. With this Christian McCaffrey injury, we're not sure when he's going to come back or if he's even going to get much volume. You need to roster Isaac Guerendo right now. He has the explosiveness, and he could start to get utilized behind Jordan Mason at some point, especially with this Deebo Samuel injury. Look for Isaac Guerendo to get some more usage. Stash him while you still can. Get Isaac Guerendo on your roster. Carson Steele is next. Carson Steele is available in 95% of leagues, just coming off 7 carries in absence of Isaiah Pacheco. It's seeming he's going to be the first and second down running back in Kansas City. So if you can get him on your team, do it, and just hope that they don't end up signing Kareem Hunt, who, by the way, Kareem Hunt also needs to be rostered. The Chiefs brought him in for a visit. He's been on the team before, similar to Samaje Perine. He was really good in Kansas City. If he goes there, I'm sure he could earn some opportunity, and you would just want to avoid the Chiefs' backfield completely. For now, it seems like it'll probably be Steele and Perine, so I want to pick those guys up. Don't want to throw a lot of fab at them, but I want to pick those guys up. Carson Steele needs to be rostered. Next, we have Kamani Vidal. You can't give up on Kamani Vidal, guys. Available in 95% of leagues. And yes, he's been a healthy scratch in back-to-back weeks, but Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins have been healthy. And that is not going to be the case all season. I think that is inevitable for at least one of them over the course of the year. And when that happens, Kamani Vidal will be activated and look a lot better than people are, kind of expecting right now. He is a stud, led all college running backs in rush yards last year, has the all-purpose build as well. He has great BMI, really great size. And can run. And I think he's a perfect fit for this offense. So get Kamani Vidal on your team while you can. Luke McCaffrey is next, who hasn't really gotten much. This week he had no targets, and his snap share also went down. But with the Commanders being where they're at right now, I think that there's a possibility that Terry McLaurin gets traded, but also Luke McCaffrey will get utilized more as the season goes along. Him and Jaden Daniels have a good connection together. We heard all offseason that there was a little bit of a meeting between the two, kind of the Breakfast Club thing where they showed up to the practice field together at 5 a.m. hours before practice started just to study film and get some extra reps together. That's going to translate to the actual football field at some point. So if you can get Luke McCaffrey, go ahead and do it. I see a question here in the chat. Kamani Vidal, Ray Davis, or Jaylen Wright? Ray Davis, Jaylen Wright, Kamani Vidal in that order right now. But I will say Kamani Vidal probably has the highest upside out of the three. Ray Davis is pretty up there as well. So I think Ray Davis or Vidal maybe, and then Wright. All of them are good. Like I want all three of them really, really bad. But I would say Ray Davis, Wright, Vidal in that order right now. But I mean, the thing is, all of these are injury dependent. So like we could hear tomorrow J.K. Dobbins injures his hamstring at practice, and then Kamani Vidal comes up as number one. So it's really, really tough. I would like to get all three. Moving on from Luke McCaffrey to Mike Gesicki. This has been a player I have been asking you guys to add for a while now. It just seemed like he was a match made in heaven for Cincinnati. This seemed like the team that could finally unlock his athleticism, and he's done it. 9 targets in this game, brings in 7 of them for 91 yards, almost scored a touchdown in week 1 as well. So Mike Gesicki, big part of this Bengals offense. If he's available, pick him up. And it's possible he actually ends up being kind of usable as an every week starter, especially while T. Higgins is out. So Mike Gesicki needs to be rostered. Next is Tyrone Tracy. This is just a handcuff move. We're seeing Devin Singletary basically get all the opportunity. So at some, running backs just get hurt. That's just how it is. So Tyrone Tracy, worth rostering. He's a wide receiver turned running back, so he has the all-purpose skill set, especially as a pass catcher. So Tyrone Tracy needs to be rostered before it's too late as well. Next, I've got Drake May, and I'm just going to say specifically for Superflex leagues, if Drake May was dropped in any Superflex leagues, he probably wasn't. But if he was, if it's a more shallow Superflex league, definitely go ahead and get Drake May. And yeah, just stash him, just in case. I mean, this Patriots defense is looking better than or just in general, really, this Patriots team is looking better than we thought they would. And Drake May has really massive upside. So when he comes in, I think he will score some fantasy points. So if you can go ahead and stash Drake May, do it. Roman Wilson is available in 97% of leagues, and this has been one of the bigger fallers over the last few weeks, given his injury kept him off the field for preseason. But Van Jefferson is just not good. So I do think Roman Wilson will earn that wide receiver 2 role pretty quickly when he does return. He's been picking up limited practices over the last 2 weeks, so I think it might be this week that he does finally return. If you can get Roman Wilson on any team, please do so. Roman Wilson is going to be a stud. I love the profile a lot. He's got dog mentality. And I just think the Steelers will love that type of player. Next, we have Josh Reynolds, who now in back-to-back weeks has at least 5 targets, 4 receptions for 93 yards this week, 5 receptions for 45 yards last week. He seems to be a big part of this Broncos passing attack over Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin even. So Josh Reynolds needs to be rostered in seasonal leagues and seems to be maybe even flex-worthy going forward, especially as the Broncos will be playing catch-up throughout the season. Next, we have Jawan Jennings, who's available in 98% of leagues. With this Deebo Samuel injury, Jawan Jennings will be asked to step up. He's just a role player for this 49ers team. He shows up when it matters most. Usually only gets a 50% snap share. I'm sure we'll see that go up. So far through this season, he has 101 receiving yards and 7 receptions, which is not too shabby. With the Deebo Samuel injury, I could see him get involved a little bit more opposite Brandon Ayuk. So if he's available, go ahead and roster him. Next, we have Jalen Tolbert, who's available in 98% of leagues. We're still believing in Ryan Flournoy. Don't forget it. But Jalen Tolbert in this game had 9 targets, brings in 6 of them for 82 yards, Brandon Cooks seemed to be kind of faded out in this game plan. So we'll see, in a different game script what this means. He only had 2 targets and 1 reception in week 1. So it's, been a tale of 2 performances for him. So I'm very curious to see how it develops. But either way, you need to be rostering Jalen Tolbert. Next, we have Jordan Whittington, who is the Rams wide receiver I'm trying to add the most. I do think that with Jordan Whittington, he's going to be the one that benefits most from this Cooper Kupp injury. I think that they're just going to design some creative plays for him like we saw in the preseason, and he'll be able to be utilized fully now that the wide receiver room is wide open for him. I don't think they really want to make Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson, and Tyler Johnson their game plan. I think they want to be creative with Jordan Whittington, so I want to roster him if you can. If he's available in your league, get Jordan Whittington. That's the Rams wide receiver I want most. Next, another handcuff that you need to be rostering is Will Shipley. I know that Kenneth Gainwell is the one being utilized right now, but I do think if Saquon goes down, Will Shipley will be a big part of this passing attack especially. He's a really good receiving running back, has made the active roster on special teams, hasn't had any offensive snaps yet, but he will get those. Definitely worth rostering this season, Will Shipley, in some deeper leagues. Next, in some deeper leagues, still hold on to Troy Franklin. Available in 99% of leagues. But this is a player that played with his current quarterback in college, was his leading receiver in college. They have a connection together. It's going to take some time for that to translate into the football field, but eventually Troy Franklin will be utilized. I really do by the end of the season. This is going to be a lost year for them. I could see them eventually trading Cortland Sutton even. And with Marvin Mims just not being good, Troy Franklin is wide receiver 2 potential on this team. Great connection with Bo Nix in college. I think eventually we'll see that at the NFL level. So don't give up yet. If you can get Troy Franklin, get him. Next is rookie tight end Theo Johnson. He was not utilized in week 2, which was kind of concerning. But in week 1, he had 4 targets. 4 targets as a rookie tight end is nothing to scoff at. I know they're Daniel Jones targets, but Theo Johnson is just so athletic. And eventually, Daniel Jones will be cut-free. So if you can acquire Theo Johnson in Dynasty, do it. He has insane athleticism. He's 6'6", 260 pounds, runs a 4.5 40-yard dash, and was pretty damn good at college, especially in the red zone. I think Theo Johnson is the tight end 1 in New York. So if you can get him, get him. Theo Johnson, no utilization in week 2, but did have 4 targets in week 1. Needs to be rostered, in my opinion. Next is Jatavian Sanders, who's also available in 99% of leagues. Again, you want to get in on these Panthers pass catchers that are available just in case they become Andy Dalton's safety net. And in this case, Jatavian Sanders is the starting tight end, and Andy Dalton does like his tight ends. Jatavian Sanders has 100% catch rate so far, 3 targets, 3 receptions, only 12 yards. But again, this Panthers offense has just been abysmal. Last year, we saw Andy Dalton breathe some life into the offense in his limited action, his 1 game. So I could see that happening again. If you can get Jatavian Sanders on your team, do it, especially in Dynasty. Next, we have Jalen Nailor, who now has touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. And this week, he was the wide receiver 2 and looked good, 93% of snaps, 3 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown off of 4 targets. Addison may be back at some point, but even Jalen Nailor scored a touchdown in week 1 with everyone active. So it seems he just at least needs to be rostered, especially in deeper leagues, in case this Justin Jefferson injury lingers, in case the Jordan Addison injury lingers. Sam Darnold looks fine, which means good things for Jalen Nailor. Next, we have Tutu Atwell. He's available in 99% of leagues. Again, Jordan Whittington is the one I want, but Tutu Atwell, in only 19% of snaps this week, had 4 targets, brought in 3 of them for 48 yards. That's just what Tutu Atwell does. You're never really going to know when to start him, but given there's so many injuries falling on this Rams team, he could have some spike weeks here and there, and you might be able to sell him. So Tutu Atwell, worth rostering for the time being. Then we have Jacob Cowing, available in 100% of leagues. Jawan Jennings is going to be the biggest benefactor of Deebo Samuel's injury, but Jacob Cowing is a stud. He was incredible this preseason. In the final week of preseason, he had 39 yards and a touchdown. He also had 70 yards in week 2 of the preseason, bringing in everything. He's a really crisp route runner. He really did impress me at the Senior Bowl. So if you can get Jacob Cowing, definitely do it. I think he's going to be awesome, especially in Dynasty. I like him a lot. Jacob Cowing, roster him if you can. Next, we have Andy Dalton, also available in 100% of leagues. Andy Dalton in Superflex, Andy Dalton in single quarterback, just to see what happens. We've seen Dave Canales revive old quarterbacks now. Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield in 2 back-to-back seasons. Couldn't do it with Bryce Young, unfortunately, but he might be able to do something special with Andy Dalton. Again, last year in his one game, he had 58 pass attempts, completed 34 of them for 361 yards and 2 passing touchdowns, 27 fantasy points. That's prolific. So if you can get Andy Dalton, definitely do so. Next is Kareem Hunt, who's available in 100% of leagues, just in case he signs with the Chiefs. They brought him in for a visit. Isaiah Pacheco's out. It's very possible they bring Kareem Hunt in and have a little bit of a 3-headed backfield. Last year, he had 135 pass attempts, 400 rush yards, 15 receptions, 84 receiving yards, and averaged 8 points per game, which is not too shabby. So if you can get Kareem Hunt, do it. In Superflex leagues, I think you can pick up Skylar Thompson as well. I'll leave him on the wire in one quarterback, but in Superflex leagues, I will be taking swings on Skylar Thompson. He's throwing the ball to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, to Devon Achane. I mean, yes, he's no Tua, but he should be fine in this offensive scheme. If you can get Skylar Thompson in Superflex, do it. And lastly, guys, if Ryan Flournoy is still available in your league, definitely roster him as well. Ryan Flournoy is going to be a stud by the end of the season, whether it be injury or not. He's been a healthy scratch the first 2 weeks, but he is awesome. He's going to continue to earn reps on the practice field, and we will see him start by the end of the year, and we will see him earn a decent snap and opportunity share on this offense. If you can get Ryan Flournoy, do it. And you know what? Hey, while we're on the super deep stashes of healthy scratches, also get Devontae Walker. He's going to take Nelson Aguilar's job at some point in Baltimore as the field stretcher. If you're looking for some deep cuts, Ryan Flournoy and Devontae Walker. Guys, that will do it. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This was another fun episode of Wake and Take. You guys were a great audience as always. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. And make sure you tune in tomorrow as we'll be going back to the market watch, doing some buy, sells, hold based on week 2's performances. So that's going to be an awesome episode. Make sure you tune into that. Have a terrific Tuesday and a wonderful rest of your week. I will see you tomorrow. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.